Aljamain Sterling is out of his first UFC bantamweight title defense. My name is Rahul J. Chan. This is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. So if you weren't aware, Aljamain Sterling was due to fight Petr Yan for the bantamweight title at UFC 267, which goes down in Abu Dhabi on October the 30th. Like I said, this was due to be his first title defense, and it was due to happen against the guy that he won the title against in the first place, Petr Yan, in controversial fashion. And I feel like the way this kind of news has filtered through, it's a little bit unfair on Aljamain Sterling, because like when I first heard, it was just Aljamain Sterling's out. He's injured. He's out. And as time progressed, it came to light that actually Aljamain Sterling had surgery on his neck, and he didn't feel like he had recovered to the level that he needed to be able to train to the level that he needs to be fully prepared for a title defense. He wanted to push this fight out. He wanted to delay the fight a little bit, postpone it, which the UFC didn't agree to. And he was examined by the UFC doctor, who then basically said, actually, no, this guy isn't fit to fight. I've heard rumours that Cory Sandhagen is going to be replacing Aljamain Sterling as Petr Yan's opponent, and they're going to be fighting for an interim bantamweight title while Aljamain Sterling recovers from the issues that he's currently suffering from with his neck. So let's talk about the guys involved, and I want to start on Aljamain Sterling because I feel sorry for this guy, man. Because we all remember how he won the title initially and the circumstances surrounding all of that, and the reaction that he received from, you know, the MMA community, be it some of the fans, be it some of the fighters. It was a negative one because Aljamain Sterling initially obviously decided that he couldn't continue with the fight, and people felt as though he physically could continue, but he chose not to continue because of the illegal blow that Petr Yan landed. He initially threw down the title and he was weeping in the octagon, and it kind of felt as though he was making a statement, basically saying, I'm not accepting the title under these circumstances. If I'm going to win this belt, I'm going to win it in a deserving manner. And then promptly after that, fight night, we saw him posing with the title on posts on social media, etc. And, you know, people took exception to that because they were like, hold on a minute, you threw the belt down last night, and today you're standing there all smiles holding it with, you know, over your shoulder like you're The Rock. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like as fans of combat sport, one thing that we don't like universally is contradictions and hypocrisy when it comes to fighters, and I felt as though people saw contradictions and hypocrisy in Aljamain Sterling's actions. I personally didn't really mind it, to be honest. I wasn't really upset by it, because I just had the opinion that if you're gonna throw an illegal blow, especially one as devastating as what Petr Yan threw, then you too should suffer the consequences. It shouldn't just be the person that you've hit illegally, you know. And I didn't really have any issues with Aljamain Sterling posing with the title, because he won the title on a technicality. But these are rules that, like, people always manipulate rules to use them to their advantage when it comes to any sport, not just mixed martial arts. And it's funny how, you see fighters grabbing shorts, you see fighters putting their fingers inside the cage and or trying to get their fingers inside their opponent's gloves, and just little kind of eye pokes and things of that nature. But those are accepted. But actually, when someone has something illegal done to them, we feel as fans of the sport that there's this moral kind of code that they need to stand by and continue fighting, etc. And I don't know whether I subscribe to that anymore, man. I don't know, when you look at everything that's at stake when it comes to these fights, etc. I don't know whether I believe that fighters should just continue, and fighters should just do what Anthony Smith did against John Jones, you know. But all of that's by the by. Like Aljamain Sterling, in my head, he can't catch a break, man, because he had this surgery on his neck, and it felt as though he was being rushed into this fight with Petr Yan by the UFC, because the UFC, I don't feel like Aljamain Sterling is a guy that the UFC are overly fond with, because I felt like he deserved a title shot sooner than he actually got one. It felt like he got a title shot begrudgingly almost, and because of the circumstances in which he won the belt, it just feels like they just want Petr Yan to beat him so they can continue with what their plan was. And I know I'm being very cynical by assuming that the UFC have a plan, because I don't think it's that deep. I just feel like they have their guys that are their favourites, and they have their guys that they don't necessarily see a lot of value in. And I feel personally, I don't know whether this is true or this is a fact, I just don't feel like Aljamain Sterling is a guy that the UFC have a lot of faith in. And I don't know why. I don't know whether there's an issue in the relationship there, or if there's a particular individual when it comes to the powers that be within the UFC that just hasn't taken a liking to Aljamain Sterling. That's just the impression I get, and I might be completely wrong, right? And then you got Petr Yan, and I heard, I can't remember who or where I saw this, someone talking about how Petr Yan's invested loads of money in his training camp for this fight, because he's been training in Siberia and he's been flying in sparring partners specifically for this fight. And they kind of had to find a replacement, and the fact that it's Cory Sandhagen who's been thrown a lifeline, who's been thrown a bone by the looks of things. Obviously it's not ideal given the fact that he's fighting Petr Yan, who is obviously a very, 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 very high level fighter, and I don't know how kind of involved or how heavily Cory Sandhagen was training for a fight, where his weight's at, etc. But given, you know, his recent form, and obviously we know he's had some spectacular knockouts, and we know that this fight against TJ Dillashaw was somewhat controversial, because there was a portion of fans out there that believe Cory Sandhagen should have won that fight on points. But just the fact that obviously Aljamain Sterling is a guy that beat Cory Sandhagen so comprehensively, and it was almost becoming like Cory Sandhagen probably needs to get another 2 or 3 victories, put on another run to get himself back in a conversation for a title. But, you know, Aljamain Sterling's loss is his gain, if indeed he does accept this title fight, because obviously it's on that short notice. So it's, like I said, it's not ideal, but he has got a month from today to October 30th, obviously. So time will tell. I suppose the reason what kind of motivated me to make this video is more just around Aljamain Sterling and just the horrible luck that he's had, and it felt as though he was being forced into taking a fight sooner than he wanted to. And this is what happens, man. He's trying to push his body, and he's trying to get to where he needs to be physically to be, you know, the best version or close to the best version of himself. And ultimately that's kind of what probably he pushed himself too far effectively, and this is where he finds himself. I like Aljamain Sterling. I've got a lot of time for him, and I hope he bounces back, and I hope he, you know, does get to, and you know what would be really, really kind of disappointing if, you know, this interim title somehow supersedes his actual heavyweight title because of the circumstances in which he won it. Because, I mean, there's no hard and fast rule for this stuff, right, with the UFC, and they could just as easily have this interim title fight, and then if Aljamain Sterling is out for another few months, and Petr Yan or Cory Sandhagen for that matter is fit and healthy and ready to go at the start of next year, there's nothing to stop them to say, actually, you know what, this is the actual heavyweight title, and that one that Aljamain Sterling has got is effectively now like the interim. He will just get a title shot when he comes back, and then that title shot might not materialize, because at the end of the day it is the UFC. And now I'm just speculating, I'm just being negative, and I hope what I've just said doesn't happen. But let me know what you guys think. Put your comments below. Don't be scared to hit the like button. Share this with a friend if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I will catch you guys next time.